Happy Easter, everyone, to those of you who celebrate. Are you ready to redeem yourself? Muy buenos dias from La Parroquia in San Miguel de Allende. It is Good Friday, and I don't think it's right to say Happy Good Friday, but I hope you are enjoying and making the most of your Good Friday. Here in San Miguel, this is Catholic town, right? Like they do the whole recreation of the Passion of the Christ. It started a week ago, and of course today, being Good Friday, is what I guess some would call the culmination, right? Because what I know that there's probably terms that I'm not familiar with, but today is the day that Jesus will carry the cross through around the Centro, and the Romans will be beating him, and I forget exactly. Oh, so then it ends with his wake, where they bring his casket, which is very elaborate, and they bring it into the oratorio. I've seen it a few times. In fact, the very first time I came to San Miguel, which was in 1999, I came for Semana Santa, and I was literally standing right down here at Don Rincon Tomas, right at the San Francisco and La Parroquia, and it was right there. This was before like massive crowds would come. It was still, you could still move around, but I was standing down there, and all of a sudden this entire enormous, moving, somber procession came down San Francisco, was making their way around here, the Parroquia, and the women were all dressed in black, and they were wearing stilettos like this, and they were carrying, very ornate, heavy candle holders, like torches, but they were metal and ornate and probably iron, right? And they were wearing veils, and they were wearing heels like this, and they were all walking around very somberly, right? And the whole procession, which I have not seen in a few years, mostly because the crowds are very, very, very thick now. So the Centro here is preparing for that. They're what they do too is they cover the streets with chamomile, and it creates such a fragrant smell, right? So the smell of the chamomile in the streets, the sound of the morning, like, how does morning have a sound? It has a sound, right? The energy of silence with that many people. And the music is, I'm sure there's a name for it, but the music is literally children weeping, which that too creates quite an energy. The first time I hear it of the season is during the Lord of the Column, which the Lord of the Column is Jesus when he comes in from Atotonilco. It's a pilgrimage from Atotonilco overnight, and he arrives at sunrise in San Miguel. And the music for that is children weeping. I don't think we can even call it music. It's hymns, and it's incredibly haunting. And I normally avoid any of these, for years I have avoided these processions because it has gotten very crowded. Many Mexicans come into San Miguel now to observe these processions. These processions happen in many towns and cities throughout Mexico, Italy, Europe, right? I don't know about the United States, but we're not talking about the United States. But I never saw this sort of thing when I was in the United States. For me, when I was a kid, yes, Good Friday was absolutely a thing. I grew up Irish Catholic, and Good Friday was always a day that everyone was sad, and it always rained. It always rained on Good Friday. But everything was closed, and we just stayed at home, right? And that was how I remember Good Friday. Although I will say this. I was raised Irish Catholic in the suburbs of Chicago, and I had a great uncle who was kind of a top-of-the-line priest in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago. He was kind of a big deal, and he actually passed in March, and I'm going to say it was 1979, 1980, and his wake was happened to fall on a Friday in Chicago in March. And I swear to God, my Father Ed's wake as a priest in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, was on Friday, March 17th. So it was St. Patrick's Day, and it was Good Friday, right? And I think I was in 7th grade or something like that. And so we make the drive and go there. My mother was very close with her uncle. They wrote letters to each other throughout the years. My mother, he was her confidant, and she wrote letters to her uncle, Father Ed. And so he was very instrumental in the shaping of my mother's life, and he was also a big support for her and us, the kids, right? And so his wake, which was attended by priests from all over Chicago, on Good Friday, on St. Patrick's Day, it was the biggest party I've ever seen at that point in my life. They had, what do you eat on St. Patrick's Day? Not cabbage and, I want to say pot roast, but that's not right. Corned beef. Okay, so they had corned beef and sausages and prime rib, and they had an open bar. And that was like the first time I was like, okay, what is this all about? I was pretty young, but I was like, what are the Catholics doing? These are Catholic priests on Good Friday, which we've always been told we had to be sad. We always had to be sad and be reflectful. Reflectful, is that a word? And so I go to this, we're thinking it's going to be the saddest day on earth. My uncle, Father Ed's wake on St. Patrick's Day, Good Friday, and it was the biggest party. I mean, my mother had to be carried out. She was so... It was wild, right? So that was when I first was like, all right, I'm not so sure about these Catholics. I don't mean any disrespect to Catholics or to anyone else who adheres to those principles. If that's what does it for you, great, right? And so this is a town that absolutely adheres and follows and adores and acknowledges, and I don't know if today would be the right day to say celebrate, but it's full on passion of the Christ. So anyways, I don't get too wrapped up in that sort of thing, but given here we are mid-April, and the state of the world is in flux, right? There's a lot of things to be concerned about, right? There's a lot of things that have gone sideways, and that we don't know which way this Titanic is going to go, do we? So I really, I'm back from Mexico City. I'm here in San Miguel. It's a whole different vibe than Mexico City, obviously. And, I'm using the quiet of my apartment. It's literally a place for me to go within and first of all, get a lot of work done, but also I'm able to go within and reflect, right? And so I'm using this time as a way to sort out, how do I want to renew myself? How do I want to be reborn? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful of any of the Catholic processions, but it is springtime, and springtime is the time of rebirth and regeneration. And, there's a lot of things to consider these days. And, like if you're still working, like how are you going to be able to survive these next few years, right? Or whatever it is, right? I mean, there's much talk of economic uncertainty. And so if you are still working, how are you going to endure that, right? That's what I'm sort of retrofitting myself for, is to be able to endure. Because if nobody has any money, are they going to want to take an art class? Well, they should. If it's good medicine. Art classes are very, very, very good medicine, right? And so I am retrofitting. That's not the right word. I'm reorganizing some of my classes so that they will be accessible and in hard times, right? I'm readjusting my workshops so that they're not all 7-day massive workshops. They're going to be 3 days, right? Places like Mexico City, Teotihuacan, Bernal, Guanajuato, right? So it'll be more economical, shorter workshops, but also completely powerful, right? Also, I'm rebirthing myself in choosing how I talk in this era of perhaps great surveillance, right? I mean, we've all been encouraged to speak our minds and to be the brand and to speak our voices in this era of social media. And now, as we are fully seeing, it's that might not be the smartest thing to do right now, because there could be some consequences. And usually that is around traveling. If you're trying to travel, there are, if you have to go through any United States border, there are, the stakes have been raised, right? So I know a lot of people who are avoiding anything to do with the United States, and I don't blame them, right? Because the things are just a little too tense right now. There's a lot of very uneducated people in the driver's seat, right? So in this time, I'm choosing to take great care in the words that I use and just how I am behaving in the world, right? And so this is part of my rebirth. This is my regeneration. I guess it's also part of growing up, right? Like, I just want to take it to the next level. Adulthood, right? Not that I want to be like doing accounting and all that every day. But as I am getting older, and life, the lens of life becomes different. I'm just trying to, I don't want to be the loudmouth, aggressive gal that's always known for, oh yeah, that one, she always speaks her mind. Oh yeah, that one, she says whatever she feels, right? Not necessarily a bad way to be in the world, but I'm just trying to soften my edges a little bit, and also be a little bit more withdrawn in my opinions about what's happening. That doesn't mean I don't have opinions. I have plenty of opinions. I'm just in this era, and we are in a very different era. We're in a very different era. And if you're not recognizing that, I've had people say to me, oh, no, I don't think anything really big is going to happen. Things are happening, right? And even if you're not affected directly, your neighbors probably is, your relative, somebody you know. If you're not being directly affected, someone in your orbit is, right? And, I'm an American in Mexico. I feel people... the tension, the stress, right? Had an incident at my house that was broken into again. And, there was just some words like, this is all America's fault, and it's the Americans that are making people afraid and full of hate. And I agree that what America is doing is not good for anyone. Right? So it's adding a lot of stress and tension and fear and hate and uncertainty for the world. And for that, that's another reason why I want to be mindful of how I present myself in the world, and how the words I choose, and how I want to interact with my neighbors. My house, it's a Mexican family-owned home. Their whole family is in there, right? And it's a wonderful. I love it, right? Because I hear the sounds of a Mexican family life, right? The music, the TV, the dinners, the chaos, the laughter, the whole deal. I'm gonna cry. I'm like so grateful to have the opportunity to live in a house, a loving, beautiful home that they have welcomed me in. I'm not in their home. I'm in a separate apartment, but I'm completely grateful to be a part of that, right? To be, trusted to be in their home as the tensions rise, as the uncertainty grows, right? So in this time of springtime and Easter and rebirth and regeneration and a whole new era of everything, I'm choosing to reincarnate as someone who's a little more thoughtful in her choice of words, her opinions, and just her interaction in the community. I'll speak in the first person. I am just being more mindful of who I am and the words I choose. So anyways, everyone, the way I am able to process this and get through this is by doing my lines, right? I'm going to circle back to the lines here because it is honestly, it is my medicine. It is my medicine to be an artist. And I think a few years ago, I would have been like, oh, just like my mother, oh, how lucky for you that you have time to make art. Isn't that lovely that you have time to make, all your chores are done so you can now make art, right? Like that whole scarcity thinking. My mother was a brilliant artist, but it was in her mind she couldn't do it until everything else was done. And, you know, she worked a very hard life. My poor mother, right? It makes me cry when I think about her. She was of that era, right? It was a whole different era, right? Like even Good Friday, everything used to be closed here. I'm in San Miguel, and everyone's out in cafes having coffee and chilaquiles, and you know, things are not, even here in Mexico, things are not shuttered like how they used to be. And it's still a somber day here. I can just tell everything's a little bit more mindful, respectful of what's happening today. And so in a couple of hours, this is going to be jam-packed with people, and then the procession will be moving through here, and it'll be silent, and it'll be moving, and it'll be mournful. And so however it is you spend your Good Friday and your Easter weekend, I wish you well, I wish you peace, and I wish you rest. And thanks for being a part of the Continuous Line community. Rosie's here at my feet. We're going to finish up our coffee and carry on with our walk. Have a great day, everyone. See you next time. Take good care. Okay, bye.